Joining me now are two very special guests. I'm joined by the former Chief Election Commissioner, Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, and the former Election Commissioner, Ashok Lavasa. Appreciate both of you joining us. Let's cut the chase. 7-phase election, and with every phase, controversies around the Election Commission continue to swirl. The Election Commission now facing ire over not releasing the exact voter turnout numbers, instead supplying only the percentage of voter turnout and saying, we are not legally mandated to do this. Under Form 17C, we will only provide this data to candidates and their agents. Does that work for you, Dr. Qureshi? Are you happy, satisfied with the way this election is being conducted?
Well, actually, the positive side of the election, that the fact that this is the biggest election in the world, 15 million people are organizing it, things are happening with clockwork precision, and almost everybody is doing his job very well. So they are all being subsumed by the controversies which have been generated. And there are only two controversies. One is about enforcement of the model code of conduct even-handedly, and the second is the question of numbers. To me, the controversy about the numbers is totally meaningless, pointless, because the data which is essential, which is important, is already in the public domain, in the sense that 17C is a form which is filled by the presiding officer at the end of the poll. He cannot go home without signing it and without giving the copy, after getting the signatures of the agent, giving it to the agents or the candidates. So once this data is already in the public domain, what is the harm in releasing it to the public? What is so secret about it? What is so sacrosanct about it?
So you're saying, because the Election Commission has told the Supreme Court they are not legally mandated to give these numbers. You're telling me that there is nothing sacrosanct. This should be given to the public as it has in the past. What has changed so suddenly?
Exactly. That is the question, because this controversy, according to me, is totally needless, avoidable, and it is damaging the reputation of the Election Commission. Why are they doing it to themselves? Why? They should release it immediately, and there was no reason to withhold it. Because, the other controversy which I've been reading in the media, that, very high, the change was reported after a couple of days or 4 days or 11 days. Now, to me, all those changes are absolutely irrelevant, because for me, what is important is the data inside the machine. That is where the future of the political party candidate is captured, and only a magician can change it, because they are under 3-4 tier of security. So EVM data, which is recorded in 17C, is all that we need. All other changes and debate and discussion, to my mind, are useless.
But you're saying that data must be provided to the public. Do you agree with that, Ashok Lavasa, that the Election Commission cannot hide behind the so-called statutory framework and saying, look, Form 17C will only be shown to candidates and their agents? Should the public not have the right to know, A, the absolute number of voters in every constituency, and B, how many of them have actually voted? And that should be available in real time in the public domain, surely.
Thank you, Rajdeep. I agree entirely with what Dr. Qureshi has said, that Election Commission of India, being the custodian of all this data, it is in a position to release this data and make it comprehensible to the people. And one must also understand that everything that the Election Commission does to build confidence is not what is prescribed in law. There are so many steps which it takes to reach out to people, to make things convenient for people, to facilitate their understanding. In fact, if you go back in time, the entire exercise of sweep, which was initiated when Dr. Qureshi was in the Election Commission, that is not legally required for the Election Commission to do. But it is an effort to educate the voters. It is an effort to win their trust and confidence. Mm-hmm. So, in that vein, what I would feel is like the analogy that I often cite about a cricket match going on, where the organizers keep the score to themselves and don't display it publicly for the people to see. Now, that they can get away by saying that, you look, we are keeping the scoreboard, scorecard, and there is a system by which that score can be verified. That's all fine. But why add to the anxiety of people by not disclosing the data which you already have? Now, as far as the right to know, the legality of all this, which is being argued, I think nobody can question the legality because in terms of the conduct of election rules, Form 17C is mandatory, it is given, it is signed by the presiding officer. So all that is fine. And the fact that so many people, the polling agents have the Form C, and through them, the candidates also has information about the number of votes given in a polling station. That is all fine. But if you look at past practices, this data has always been released after a certain degree of accuracy and verification is done by the commission. And of course, you always have the caveat that there are a certain category of votes which are not captured in this data because Form 17C is only the record of number of votes cast in that particular polling station.
No,
The other thing that I want to say
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
is if there are 10 candidates and there are 1,500 polling stations, there are so many people who will have this Form 17C and the effort required by all of them to put this data together. And then during compilation or doing the addition, there could be mistakes made by the candidates. And if they are expected to put out this data for public information, it can lead to more confusion. Whereas the Election Commission, which is the custodian of this data, which has access to this data, and I think which is responsible for informing the people, they are in a very good position to put this data out, and it's very elementary data that is being sought.